Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to take the targets that we have created in a previous video, and we're going to create a target group. So far, the 3 targets we created was the 3 sides of this triangle part over here. We're going to create one more target as the end of this tool. So we're going to make this as our home position, which is 0, 0, 0, 0, 90 for our end. So we go to the targets, show hide target tools, and we can create a target right at the end of our tool just by going at the tool point. So at TCP automatically creates our point here. So that's going to be position number T4. I'm going to double click on that, and we don't have to move to because we're already here. I'm going to just call this home. For after that, I'm going to turn off the triad and go to a bullet point, and then we hit OK. So now that I have my points here, let's create the target groups. So when we go to target groups, right click, add target group, and we can rename this to whatever we want. We can call this side of the triangle, and we'll just leave it as target group 1. Here, if we have any parts, we can add the parts. The controller that we're going to utilize is robot controller number 1, which is associated to the R2000 CI165F. We're going to use utool number 1 and then user frame number 1 as well. So you could change your user frames and tool points so that when you generate the program, that's what it's going to generate under. Let's hit OK, and then we're going to right click on it, and we're going to go edit target group. And then this screen will pop up. First thing we need to do is add the different targets to it. So we're going to go to under the group modify members, add the plus next to targets, and here's our targets. So we're going to utilize this however the steps we want to go. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the home, arrow over, then we're going to arrow down to T1, then we're going to go to T2, and then to T3. And because we want to go back to that original point, making that full triangle, we need to go back to T1, and then we're going to go home after that. So we're going to go home, down to the point 1, point 2, point 3, back to point 1, and then back home again. So we're going to hit OK. Next, let's go to motion line data, and this is where we can change each of the motions and options associated with this. So if we click number 1, which is our home position, we can hit the plus next to this. And now you'll see we could change everything. So we'll maybe do a joint motion of 100% back. So we'll maybe go as a fine movement all the way up. We can add a configuration if we want as well. And you can see it automatically adjusts. We can also hit adjust, which will update everything. So the joint movement 100% fine. Then we want to go down to position number 1, and we want to do this as a joint as well. So let's click that. Joint 100%. We want to go down to the fine point, so we go right to that position, and then let's do adjust. Then we're going to go linear to our other object, so pick the speed in which you want to go. So I'm going to go 1500, and then back to the original 1500, and then we're going to go home as a joint 100% all the way to the end, which is fine. Okay, so now we have the main program. We can add options to this. We can also add an approach and retreat, which is offset from our object. Now before we run this, let's just make sure that we're not continuous, that we're hitting every point. So let's go back in here and change our end points. So just click it and hit the plus next to motion group. And instead of continuous, let's go fine. And let's do that for each one of these. So we have fine movement all the way across. No continuous movement. All right, let's go to general and just double check everything. This is the program that's going to be created. So TG1, so if you want to call it something else like triangle side, you can do that. We're going to be using user frame number 1 and pointer number 1, which is utool number 1. Let's go generate feature teach pendant. And it creates our teach pendant program. Let's close out of this. Let's go to select. And then you'll find the TG1 Sim Pro auto generation. Enter. And here's the auto generated program that we just set up. So notice how you have the U-frame number 1 and U-tool number 1. So let's make sure that we are in those. Let's go to menu And let's go to setup, frames. So utool is 180. So let's set IND number 1. And then let's go to other user frames and make sure we're user frame number 1, which it says user frame number 1, but I always like to set IND 1 just to make sure. Let's go back to that program. And here's my program, and let's run this. And there is our generated program from targets being created into target groups.